Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation, our webinar on AI and making it work for your business. I'm James Ratcliffe, founder and managing director of Ratcliffe IT. Thank you for joining us today on this recording. Just to step through what we'll look at today really is about a high-level overview on real-world implementation, getting rid of some of the confusion, how AI can make a tangible difference to your business in 2026. This is aimed at non-technical people responsible for business outcomes, CFOs, COOs, front of house, office management, to help you get a grip at a high level of what AI can do for you now, where we're going. Now, this is something that's changing rapidly, so we deliberately keep it to principles and high level rather than something very specific. But of course, if you want to look at your business, your processes, what's appropriate at that time, whether it's agentic, whether it's process automation, whether it's agents managing more agents, sorry, jumping in a bit deeply there already, that's a conversation we can absolutely have. So today's agenda, we'll be looking at the real world usage cases of AI, some of the risks of doing it yourself, and what it means, what outcomes, what return you can expect when AI is done right, and how we can help you unlock that growth, because that's what this should absolutely be. It's all about growth. I suppose the first thing to see is that AI is more than a buzzword. It's not going to be a bubble. It's not something that's going to come around and change and disappear on us. By the end of this session, you'll understand how it fits into your business plans, and how it can help you scale without adding complexity, and how it can help you with growth. AI really isn't about chasing trends. I think our industry is quite guilty of having a flavor of the month, having a shiny object, sometimes technology for the sake of it, but AI is here to stay. It's going to change enormously. And what it's really about is solving problems in your day-to-day operations. That's where it's going to bed in. It may not be there yet. You may or may not be using it for that kind of thing, but it is here to make your team's work easier and more effective. So let's start by looking at why AI is more than just hype. So AI is really here to solve real business problems by delivering practical outcomes rather than tangential hypothetical things. These changes should matter to your bottom line. So what we're seeing already is operational efficiency. We can automate repetitive tasks like data entry, scheduling, manual errors and mistakes that cost time and money, and streamline workflows across departments. That means that basic level, rather than being taken up by a human, means you can be free to do more strategic work, decision making, moving ahead of where you are as an organization. Smarter, faster decisions. Now, I think we agree that AI wouldn't be trusted to make decisions completely on its own just yet. However, decisions often stall because data is everywhere. As a human operator, you know that you've got information there. In fact, you might not be aware, but AI allows us to access and process information wherever it is in the organization and outside of it in real time, giving you much clearer insights for much more detailed reports and hiring analysis, and means that you can make faster responses without having to resource it and respond to market changes, respond much more quickly when planning. Better allocation of resources is another really important part of growth. Resources are always limited one way or another, and misallocating them is going to hurt your delivery against your growth targets. So AI can help you prioritize where to invest time and money, whether it's more staffing, more inventory or infrastructure, and make sure that you're getting maximum impact out of the resources. Every hour is time, or every pound spent is better resourced. And all of that leads to scalability with less complexity. So growth often brings complexity. AI simplifies that. So you can expand into new markets or customer areas without adding layers of overhead. So rather than having to spin up a team to deal with something, your existing teams can use AI to keep business operations agile and manageable. So let's look at how successful businesses are using it today. So some real use cases that we're seeing already, and these may not apply to your organization at this moment in time, but it shows you where things are and give you some ideas and food for thought. So for example, automating customer service and support. Now, We won't ever automate everything completely here. We believe that in IT, actually, the human interface is really important, particularly when dealing with technology. However, many companies are using AI-powered chatbots or conversations. And what we're finding and what we're seeing quite a lot of, I don't know if it's been your experience, is that you can much more easily address queries and issues than in the past. I think chatbots previously felt like a fob off, or you got caught in a useless loop. But actually, what we're seeing is freeing up human resources for the more complex things and reducing wait times and communication, actually, even where it's multi-language, multi-geo, much more personalized, much easier to understand. And the outcomes, of course, are customer client satisfaction and, of course, lower support costs. Predictive analytics mean for smarter decision making. Retailers, manufacturers can forecast demand and buying patterns. This helps us manage inventory, so therefore cash flow as well, and avoid costly stockouts or overstocking. We're seeing this hugely in supply chain. It's a very good fit for this, and takes a lot of the guesswork out for much better predictive capabilities. Something that maps quite well to professional organizations is business who are looking at automating repetitive tasks, invoice processing. We're definitely seeing invoice reconciliation. So those manual checks about a stream of invoices from a supplier over a period of time. Has the unit price changed and why? Has the overall price, the quantity or the number of clients varied and why? Things that would typically take an hour or two for a human to do can be done very quickly. Huge amount of time saving there. Helping things like payroll, scheduling, and so on. It does mean your admin teams, who've probably always been saying the burden on them is huge, are finding it that bit less pressured, easier, which gives both time and mental capacity back to doing more with the same staff. So it really allows you to flex, well beyond your previous expectations of capacity and lead to growth. That really should be where AI sees itself, in capital markets, that organizations can fundamentally do much more. And of course, customer support service and cybersecurity threat detection. So the last part on that slide is wrong. AI can monitor networks for unusual activity. Now, this was previously done with algorithms, but although we're relatively smart, they were fairly fixed. AI has that flexibility to look for unusual activity and flag potential breaches very early on. And that's allowing organizations such as ourselves and those who provide security services to be much more proactive and catch things much sooner in the timeline. So those examples hopefully illustrate a little bit how AI is both practical and powerful, but it's not just a tech upgrade. AI really is about growth and enabling businesses to do more. So it's about scaling smarter, not harder. So again, it comes back to less complexity. You can serve more clients, more customers and new markets without having to build big teams and systems. Your existing teams and systems can flex much more straightforwardly by tapping into answers, data, analytics that AI can provide. It really does mean ultimately then you are growing your revenue, growing the top line, and I would say the middle line gross profit, because you're not growing overhead. So not just revenue growth, but profit growth. And we are seeing this now quite a lot in a lot of industries as people are catching on and finding ways of bedding this in. They're just doing more. It doesn't mean we're necessarily shedding jobs. It doesn't mean that jobs are necessarily at risk, particularly in knowledge workers and knowledge markets. It means that those staff who are delivering great service, whether it's us, whether it's in wealth management, financial services, accountancy, professional services, law, you've got your clients, you can help them and do a better job for them. So that's allowing more revenue growth and profit because you're not growing the cost base. And of course, in line with that is more agility. So markets are shifting quicker than ever, partly because of AI, and it gives you the ability to adapt with it. So whether it's flexible pricing, launching new services, or responding to client needs and trends, using AI, we're seeing there's a tangible difference in that. And it's much more manageable when done strategically. So although there's a lot to it, a clear plan, it becomes quite manageable and a very valuable tool rather than a burden. So this really is about enabling a business to do more rather than it being about technologies for the sake of it. It does, of course, come with some risks. So implementing AI without expert guidance can lead to costly mistakes. And for example, you don't put it in correctly, choosing the wrong tools without a clear strategy can lead you down a dead end, or doesn't fit with your existing workflows. So you end up with silos of AI and independent different ways of working that are not integrated, creating confusion and slowing progress. You may still get some benefits, but you won't get all the efficiency you're trying to drive out of the implementation. Something definitely to be aware of is security vulnerabilities. So when you're doing it DIY, then AI can overlook critical security measures, can bypass existing controls if you're not careful, or quite often expose sensitive information and data in ways you didn't expect. When data was sitting in repositories, I'm sure many organizations have been in this scenario, is that if a file was in your OneDrive, or if it was in a particular file area and it was a bit convoluted, maybe you could relax knowing that a human probably wouldn't see it. It would lie there dormant and inactive. However, AI is going to see all of that data. It's very likely going to see everything across your estate. And now when a question is asked of it, which could be confidential, could be private to different areas of the organization, well, AI is going to surface the answer. That data becomes effectively active. It's referred to in the answers that are given, and access unexpectedly is shared with people because it's granted them the answer and answered the question that they legitimately had access to, but you didn't expect them to find. So being ready for that's really important, and the DIY side of it does mean that that's way more likely to happen. Also doing it on the DIY approaches is that you use tools, don't fully use them, maybe have a number of different tools and don't utilize them. So you don't get the return without them being properly integrated and particularly training, and the adoption just doesn't take place. And so the opposite happens. Instead of getting that return, instead of getting the benefits we talked about earlier, that you just have the cost and it becomes a wasted investment. In the same way that internal data, the confidential pieces that get surfaced, the same can be true externally. Compliance will dictate that certain data shouldn't be accessible. However, AI, if you haven't set it up properly and haven't set your existing data structure up properly, AI is going to surface that information, and without oversight does mean you could risk penalties or reputational damage from a compliance point of view. And if not done properly, if you do some quick fixes and trial AI without thinking about how it's going to scale across the business, then it might break down as the business grows. So planning properly means that you're going to avoid any expensive rework later. So that's what happens when it's not done well, typically DIY without the strategic involvement of your IT and cybersecurity AI partner. What happens when it is done right? So straight out of the bat, we're seeing this a lot. Time is saved. This could be very easily several hours per week of basic work, allowing staff to do that high value work that only a human can do, or give back time to give more client attention. And that really accelerates productivity. We've all probably felt like we could do another hour or two in our day. AI really is bringing that return straight out of the bat when done well. We will find there are reduced errors. We're not talking about hallucination here for AI. AI can make some mistakes in terms of being factual. However, when processing what was previously a manual step, we're finding that AI enhances accuracy, particularly things around data entry, reporting and compliance. Is actually way more reliable than manual processes. And what realistically happened is with previous technologies, they weren't automated. So time saving and reduced errors for getting that basics covered is huge areas of return you can have right now. And of course, that means you can get back to clients faster with much more personalized experiences than before, which leads to better engagement, rapport, loyalty, relationship, driving, long-standing relationships, repeat business and referrals, all of course leading to growth. So looking at the practical, secure ways we can make a difference to your organization, a good IT partner, such as ourselves, will help you identify where AI can make the biggest impact and drive the most change and value right now. We're going to make sure that AI exists into your existing workflows and systems without disruption. So it means that smooth adoption planning and implementation with training means you can continue running without any interruptions while AI is implemented. There can be a cadence, a rhythm of bringing either manual functions more automated or things you just couldn't get to quite quickly. We've seen examples where we can produce for ourselves and our clients really helpful reports that have just been basically, frankly, impossible to do manually. They wouldn't have been worth doing, but bring a lot of insight and have those up and running and bringing them on, you know, through the weeks, through the months as you go without disrupting, just adding to what you're doing, whilst also making sure that security, scalability, and simplicity are preserved. It's very tempting to build all sorts of crazy things, but you need to stay safe, future ready, and keep it easy to manage. And of course, there'll always be ongoing support, help, and optimization as AI changes, and more importantly, as the business changes. We'll be there for you to help you refine and maintain the performance and, of course, the return on the investment. So growth is great, but only if it's secure. We've talked about this, as in all pieces of technology, you've got to be really careful of the unintended consequences of any technology. So how we can help you with AI security is that risk assessment. So identifying vulnerabilities before any AI solution goes live, so that you know you can start strong. We'll help with secure implementation. So configure and integrate AI tools safely with the right access to make sure your data is protected and you're still compliant. We of course need to track the ongoing AI behavior and the system activity to make sure that if it is misused, that those kind of threats can be caught early. And of course, a compliance support. So helping you be assured and reassured that your legal and industry standards are met with to avoid reputational issues and penalties around the trust side of your organization. And of course, education and governance. So whether it's having clear policy set for safe AI use and also training you and your team on doing that. So if that's making sense for you and you'd like to engage to find out more, obviously it's been very quick. We're trying to keep this under 20 minutes as a taster session for AI and getting it into your organization. We'd be happy to have that conversation around where you are now, have an AI readiness consultation to look at these areas in more detail. Where are your data? Where are your files? How is access and compliance work now? What are your key business processes? How are they mapped? How that could be leveraged with AI to help you get the growth and keep the cost base low. You can schedule a session with us to have that no commitment readiness consultation at your soonest convenience. So schedule that session with us, take the first step towards smarter growth, and we look forward to building out that business roadmap with you. Thanks for your time.